This is the Engineering 220 Section 1 Truss Design Project Report for Dr. Crittenden's class for summer 2014, done by Taylor Capp, Will Douglas, Hunter Fulton, and Robert Rollins. This slideshow will cover the project specs, alternative designs, the actual design, the calculations, the predictions, and the conclusions from our truss project. The rules of this project were that the truss had to be, the pins had to be 26 inches apart. It was loaded at 13 inches from one support. The maximum width between the two planar trusses was up to be 11 inches, and it would be created from a 2 by 3 foot sheet of tempered hardboard. The truss that we came up with had to be statically determinate, required a minimum of 4 members, and there were to be no zero force members in the truss. Our truss followed these guidelines by being a span of 26 inches with a width between the two planar trusses of 10 inches and loaded from 13 inches from one support. And we made it from the 2 by 3 foot tempered hardboard sheet and utilized just about all that space for our design. We had 11 members and 7 joints with no zero force members. These are the two alternative designs that we had thought about utilizing. The top one, however, required a bit too much material for what we were going for and was a bit too long overall. The second one required more time than necessary to be implemented simply because we ended up going with a more uniform truss, so we would save time and energy on our calculations, which saved us from being inaccurate overall. This is our final design that we decided to go with. The red members are in compression, the red members are in tension while the blue are in compression. This truss is a simplified version of both the first and second alternative, being that we shortened the overall design and made it more uniform with keeping all the members the same length. This allowed us to be a lot more accurate with our overall calculations. This is the actual design of the truss. We utilized just about all the space on the tempered hardboard sheet by laying out a lot of extra members. We actually had many more than we needed to complete our truss, and we printed out these washers just in case there happened to be some spacing issues between the members at the joints, which we actually did not end up using any of the washers at all. This shows a 3D model. This is not our truss, but it demonstrates how we could have utilized these cross members to prevent a bit of torsional torquing that caused our truss to fail overall. If we would have implemented those, then we would have saved ourselves from our truss collapsing at such a low weight. These are our calculations, and as you can see, because of the fact that we went with uniform members, we were able to save ourselves a lot of trouble with the calculations because we were able to simply copy and paste the majority of our formulas. The axial stress is pretty uniform as far as compression members and tension members respectively. All of the areas are uniform. The predicted buckling loads are all uniform for everything. So, like I said, it saved us just a lot of time and effort so that we were able to be more accurate while not overworking ourselves, and so we decided to focus a little bit more time and effort on the final and retake exam. So we were able to come up with a truss that satisfied the requirements of the project without compromising ourselves in our other studies. We predicted that our truss would fail at member GF, which is here. I'm sorry, here. Simply because it was the largest moment of inertia and had the most weight placed on it. However, it was in tension, so based on the lab reports, the tension members tended to hold up more than the compression members, simply because in theory yes, the tension member is under a lot more weight, but the compressive members also succumb to buckling, which is hard to account for. The actual result was that the members failed at AB, right around this area close to the joint, simply because as soon as the load was applied across the member at point C, the entire truss immediately began to torque and twist. And if we had implemented those cross members here diagonally from joint to joint, it would have saved us from having that, and it would have overall increased the integrity of the design and would have increased the maximum amount of weight carried. In summary, our truss could have definitely benefited from those cross members, and we could have improved the overall design by reducing the amount of space between each planar truss, and also we could have reduced the length of the members so that we could have distributed the load more evenly throughout the truss. So additional members would have resulted in taking the load off, literally taking the load off the other members throughout the truss, which would have greatly improved the overall performance of the truss. So unfortunately, we did not hold a high amount of weight, but all of our calculations were extremely accurate. We were pretty bent out of shape, literally and figuratively, that the members failed so quickly where they did. But next time that we have to design a truss like this, we'll be more knowledgeable on the real world, on how when you take a design from paper and implement it into the real world, how when you get to the real world there are things that simply can't be accounted for, and not everything is as perfect on paper as it is in the real world. Oh, and so overall we walked away with a lot of experience with how to apply what we've been taught in class, and how those things and principles actually work in the real world. Overall, a very beneficial project, and we were very pleased with our design despite the fact that it did fail so quickly.